feel that adjudication is a growing trend in Asia?
Well, it certainly is a growing trend in Asia. It's recently been introduced in Malaysia. It's existed in Singapore for quite some time. It's right across the states of Australia, and it's coming to Hong Kong, so it would seem reasonably soon.
Why is it a growing trend, though? What makes it so popular?
Well, the construction industry, it seems the world over, is struggling to resolve disputes speedily and efficiently enough within an arbitration or litigation context.
And this seems to address those concerns.
Well, the idea is to have a very quick fire procedure to get to the end of the dispute, which is a non-binding decision, which can always be overturned by arbitration later on, which is why people refer to it as quick and slightly rough justice.
Okay, last question regarding the new Hong Kong scheme. I think it's had the advantage of sort of looking at some of the what has worked and what hasn't worked with other jurisdictions. What are some of the key aspects of the new Hong Kong scheme that sort of addresses some of the ambush concerns?
I don't know whether it's so much towards the ambush or just to allow the parties greater time to consider the position. But it's proposed that it would be 55 working days, actually 45 working days extendable up to 55 working days. So that's actually 11 weeks, which is not the short procedure that they have, say, in the UK, which is 28 days from start to finish. So obviously the longer duration will give people time to respond to the case that they face. But in addition, they'll have things like, it's proposed that there's a 28-day period after the notice in which to submit the notice of adjudication, which is quite different from the UK when it can actually be served at any time. Also, there are explicit provisions about not allowing evidence that ought to have been capable of being produced when the payment claim was made, and that should be quite effective. It's quite interesting that although adjudication is growing around the world, everywhere seems to have their own very specific model.
Thank you so much for discussing this with us today. So why is adjudication favored in the construction industry?
Well, Tara, the short answer to that is it offers contractors a quicker and cheaper way of obtaining payment and resolving their disputes. So if you take a look at adjudication and you compare it to something like litigation or arbitration, you could, depending on which jurisdiction you are at, have these claims resolved within 2 months to 3 months, as compared to something like arbitration or litigation, where it could go on for a year or two. So in the construction industry, where cash flow is really important, having your disputes and your claims resolved quickly is of paramount importance to the contractor.
Great, thank you for that. Now, during the panel today, there was a lot of discussion about anti-ambush measures. What's all the fuss about? Why the need for them?
Well, you know, one of the things that we have to deal with quite frequently in adjudication is surprise claims made by contractors. And they load up their claims and they serve these on the eve of holidays, giving the other party very little time to prepare and to have the matter resolved fairly. And I think legislation and practitioners recognize that. And that's why in some legislations or some jurisdictions, there's legislation that's introduced to try and limit these kind of behavior.
Great, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.